Sonic Shield here with a review for Dragon Age the Veilguard. Dragon Age the Veilguard is an RPG game made by BioWare set 10 years after Dragon Age Inquisition, where you play as Rook, who seeks to stop the last elven gods from tearing down the veil and unleashing the blight on the world. Now, to set the stage, I love the Dragon Age series. Dragon Age is the reason I got into RPG games. I played all of the games multiple times. In fact, Dragon Age Inquisition was one of my favorite RPG games, and I played that multiple times. I played every class, every race, made every decision, every romance, everything, just to get the full experience of the game. So going into Dragon Age the Veilguard, I did not like the trailer that was released in June. I thought it was too cheery, too happy, too positive. It wasn't my Dragon Age that I was used to. And the articles that came out after, I wasn't impressed with. The visuals didn't look fine. The game looked okay and everything like that. So needless to say, when I walked into Dragon Age the Veilguard, I came in with mixed opinions. The story for Dragon Age Veilguard is okay. It's decently written for an RPG game. The characters are wonderful to interact with. I enjoyed the story overall and all the conflicts and everything like that. I love the narration, the voice acting, everything like that. However, I did find some characters to appear boring at the start, and some of them were even rude, and I did not like them at the start, but I grew into learning to accept them and liking their characters at the end. However, on the other end, there were also characters that I was very interested in from the start, just based on our first interactions. And then later on, their storylines and their character arcs kind of just fell off, and I did not care at all for what was happening with that character. The overall writing I felt was kind of off too. It did not feel like a Dragon Age game. So, for example, I play as an elf and a mage, which historically in Dragon Age games are looked down upon and are feared in some cases. And so throughout the other Dragon Age games, I remember dealing with, vague knife-eared comments and comments about blood magic and whatnot. In this game, there was none of that. There was no racism, really, no prejudice against other races or anything like that. Overall, it didn't feel like a Dragon Age game. It just felt like a regular RPG game made by some developer. There were no evil options. Their decisions were either crying, subtly aggressive, or humor, really. The critical decisions themselves did not feel like they had any impact. I didn't really bat an eye at any of the crucial decision points. I wasn't really invested in any of it. Nothing really caused me to pause and think about it. Rook themselves as a leader was not really explained. It kind of just felt like they were just put there as a placeholder. And there's no mention of the Veilguard team. Rook himself is not represented as leader of the Veilguard. I don't recall any mentions anywhere about being part of the Veilguard or this is my team, the Veilguard. It was kind of off-putting because, this is the game itself. The companions themselves, their storylines were decently written, and I enjoyed most of their storylines. However, I did not like the positive attitude. There was no real conflicts within the team. The conflicts that did happen felt like they were put in, like scheduled in. They didn't feel natural. And a lot of times I only talked to the companions really to further the story or quest or anything like that. There was no catch-up moments or anything like that. The companions didn't feel alive or involved in the story. They just felt like they were there. They were there to nod and agree and support Rook's decisions, and that was it. Gameplay-wise, the game is beautiful. The environments are nice to look at. I loved walking through Docktown. I loved walking through onto the coast. I loved going through the crypts. It was beautiful and fun and amazing to look at. I will say, though, the character creation is hard to use. The Quinaris look weird on the bases, but once you get into the character creations, it's easy to make a very good looking character. I don't know what they did with the character creations templates to make the characters look weird from the start, but I did have to pull up a tutorial just to make my character the way I wanted it to look. It's like a decently good looking character. Combat wise, the combat is fun and interactive. I played a Spellblade mage where I was zipping around slicing enemies and detonating arcane bombs with a lightning AoE around me. The skill tree itself is fun. I love the ability to reset if I didn't like my build the way it works, or I can just swap it out depending on what kind enemy I'm facing. It was very complex, and I enjoyed the different options as a mage. The equipment itself, you can definitely tell it was designed for replayability and like a life service game, as the only way to upgrade your equipment was to find the same equipment, and that would automatically upgrade your gear. And you can tell that they kind of just quickly patched it over and changed it into an RPG game. Like no other effort was really made towards that. I did not like the idea of party members going down from 4 to 3. Yes, it did allow for more closer relationships with Rook, but in a typical RPG format, with a party, at a minimum, you would have a tank, a support, melee DPS, and a ranged DPS, more than likely. So going down to 3, you're kind of left down to a tank, a support, and a DPS. So, which in the end is not a problem, but the way that the enemies focus on the main character, aka me, the Rook, who was playing as a mage, I constantly felt like I was the focus, and my companions, the tank wasn't able to peel enemies off, and the companions themselves just felt like extra damage. They didn't feel like they contributed anything to the fight aside from skills. I constantly had to keep dodging hordes of enemies just charging me and not my companions, who were just at my side, despite having a tank character like Tosh, for example, and still having the quote-unquote tank damage. And as a mage with low health at the start of the game, that was tough. Overall, Dragon Age: The Veilguard is a good average RPG game. By all the regular average RPG standards, it is a good game. The mechanics are good, the story is decently written, everything is okay as an average RPG game made by a regular developer or an indie developer. However, this is not a regular developer or an indie developer. This is BioWare. This is a company that has history of making amazing moments, amazing games, amazing choices, amazing characters, amazing stories, well-written stories that carry on for generations. So to compare this to the other games that BioWare has produced, this does not compare. This is not a good Dragon Age game. This is not a good BioWare game. This is an average RPG game where it felt like the writers wanted to just write off the last part of the trilogy and start afresh. Every decision, every element in the story just felt like they wanted to close ties, end everything from the previous 3 games, and just start afresh. And to me, that's upsetting, because one of the main joys of both the Dragon Age and the Mass Effect series is the ability to see your decisions, how they carry through from game to game, how choosing one character to become king reflects on the other 2 games, how saving or choosing a side from one game determines some outcomes in the second game. For me, Dragon Age is all about the decisions. And the fact that these story writers and developers decided to just write off our previous decisions, it's not only insulting, it's also upsetting, and it makes me nervous for the future of Dragon Age. I hope that BioWare gets one last chance to do another Dragon Age game, and I hope they look back and reflect and realize what makes Dragon Age and their games themselves great, and they fix these in the future, because this is definitely not a Dragon Age game. Overall, I'd give this a 6 out of 10 Steves. It's a good average RPG game, but it is not a good Dragon Age game. Anyways, those are my thoughts and reviews for Dragon Age: The Veilguard. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and if you like this video, feel free to like, subscribe. If you want to talk about this in person, I do go live on my Twitch, playing other games and reviewing other games and just hanging out, so feel free to stop by there, and we will see you guys next time. Bye-bye for now.